Wings of Redemption. Chapter 1. Echoes of Dawn. Dawn light filtered through the thick canopy of whispering falls, casting dappled shadows over Xara as she knelt by the mossy bank. The cool air carried the sweet scent of guava blossoms, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp soil. On the ground beside her, a wounded sky-keeper bird blinked weakly, its feathers ruffled and stained. Xara's fingers trembled as she carefully applied a poultice of crushed yucca and wild herbs, a healing blend taught by her grandmother. She whispered a prayer to Avestra, the goddess of birds, her gaze dropping to the ground, her stomach tightening with guilt. Just beyond the trees, the distant rumble of engines shattered the tranquility, and Xara gasped, her throat constricting at the image of the poachers. Xara paused to wipe sweat from her brow. Thoughts of food churned in her stomach, making her feel uneasy. Just yesterday she had shared a meal of grilled fish with her brother, their laughter echoing through the trees as they savoured the salty richness. Now, however, the memory felt distant, overshadowed by the fragility of the creature in front of her. She reached for a small handful of tart babaco, its juice bursting against her lips, grounding her in the moment. The fruit was ripe and sweet, a stark contrast to the urgency clawing at her insides. Would there be time for another meal together, or would this be her final chance to make amends? The sound of rustling leaves drew her gaze up, where a forager was busy collecting fruits from the trees. He spotted Xara and offered a slight bow, hands clasped together, a gesture of respect that reminded her of the community's values. She returned the bow, feeling the weight of their shared history. They had once played together as children, but since her misstep, whispers had followed her like shadows. She stared at the bird, her brow knitted in concentration as she fought against the weight of her guilt. With a deep breath, Xara pressed her palm against the bird's side. "May the flame protect you, little one," she murmured, her voice quavered, each word of the prayer feeling hollow. The poachers were closer now, their laughter a jarring contrast to the serene environment. She couldn't shake the superstition that a lone bird's suffering could spell disaster for her people. A message from Kali, the spirit of the vanished people, warning against the consequences of their actions. Each rustle in the underbrush made her heart race, a reminder that the moment was critical. As the sun crested the trees, casting golden rays over the glistening waterfall, Xara's resolve hardened. She gathered the last of the healing herbs, knowing she had to act swiftly. She glanced at the bird. Dawn broke over Whispering Falls, casting a golden hue across the trembling leaves. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the sweet perfume of wildflowers, creating an enchanting atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the tension brewing in Xara's heart. Kneeling by the mossy bank, she cradled a wounded bird in her lap, its fragile body a stark reminder of the life hanging in the balance. 3 nights remained until the full moon, a relentless countdown echoing in her thoughts. If she could tend to its wounds and coax it back to health, perhaps she could find redemption for her past mistakes, saving not just this creature, but reclaiming a piece of herself. Her fingers trembled as she prepared her supplies, urgency propelling her forward. With steady hands, Xara cleaned the bloodied feathers, each stroke a reminder of her family's betrayal. The sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with the earthy aroma of the forest. "Keep on, you gotta fight, little buddy," she urged softly, her voice melodic yet tinged with desperation. Memories of her family's lies clawed at her resolve. They had betrayed the sacred trust of the sky keepers, leading to their near extinction. Would she be powerless to save this bird as well? Failure loomed a spectre in her mind. Time was an adversary, and 2 days remained until the full moon. Phaedra burst through the underbrush, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "Hey Xara, snap out of it. That bird needs you right here, right now, not the weight of your past." The urgency in her voice cut through Xara's self-doubt, igniting a flicker of defiance. Yet that spark wavered as she glanced at the bird, its eyes fluttering shut. "What if I fail again?" Panic surged within her. "We have less than 72 hours. Phaedra's tone sharpened, but Xara felt frozen, gripped by the fear of repeating history. Frustration crossed Phaedra's features as she seized Xara's shoulders, compelling her to meet her gaze. "You can't save it if you're stuck in the past. The full moon is coming. This is your chance to make things right. Don't let your family's betrayal dim your spirit." The intensity in Phaedra's eyes sparked a flicker of determination within Xara.
yet uncertainty lingered. What if her effort was in vain? But the bird's life hung in the balance. Xara's breath quickened, and she fought to push through her doubts. Time was running out. Taking a deep breath, Xara focused on the bird, her hands steadying as she applied the last of the ointment. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, a reminder of the fleeting time. "I won't let you down, not again," she vowed, her past still heavy but momentarily lifted by purpose. Phaedra's grip on her shoulder tightened, a silent promise of support. The bird stirred, a small
The cry hung in the air, a stark warning that danger was near. Xara knelt beside Whispering Falls, the cool mist brushing against her skin and anchoring her in the moment. Her fingers traced the damp earth, recalling memories of betrayal and the helplessness of her youth. She inhaled deeply, the scent of wet foliage and wildflowers igniting a fierce determination within her. Light danced on the water's surface, sparkling like the hope slipping through her fingers. Phaedra's presence, warm and steady, provided solace, yet a storm brewed in Xara's chest, threatening to drown her resolve. The shadows of her past loomed large, making her question, would she step into the role of protector without repeating history's mistakes? Xara's gaze darted to the thicket, her muscles tightened in anticipation. The forest whispered secrets. Was there truly a threat? Phaedra settled beside her, exuding calm amidst Xara's turmoil. "You carry the legacy of your family, but it doesn't define you. Embrace your strength, Xara. Protect what matters." Her words wrapped around Xara like the mist, but doubt crept into Xara's resolve. A bird, vulnerable and beautiful, nested in the hollow of an old tree, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. A shiver traced Xara's spine. Past failures clawed at her determination. What if she failed again? The waterfall cascaded, its sound thrumming in time with her racing pulse. Xara pressed her palms into the cool earth, seeking stability. The world around her blurred. Shadows of her past danced in the water's spray. She had run before, hidden from the truth. But now the stakes were high. Soon the moon would rise, bringing the threat of losing the fragile life she longed to protect. Anxiety coiled within her, but a spark of determination ignited. She could not retreat. Not again. Phaedra, attuned to her turmoil, shifted closer. "Every choice shapes us, Xara. You can either let fear steal your voice or rise to meet it. Be the protector you were born to be." Xara's breath caught. Phaedra's belief weighed heavily on her, challenging her to confront her fears. The bird trembled with the wind, and a pang of longing struck Xara, to be brave, to stand tall. But shadows whispered of failure, echoing the betrayal of her family. Could she bear the burden of their legacy? The splashes of water drew her attention back to the falls. Each drop mirrored the choices cascading through her mind. For a moment, she considered backing away, surrendering to fear. But the thought of the bird, of the life she might save, pulled her back. Xara perched on a moss-covered rock, the cascading waters of Whispering Falls a constant reminder of the turmoil she faced. Sunlight danced on the water's surface, sparkling like diamonds, contrasting sharply with the weight of her thoughts. The damp, earthy scent of the rainforest enveloped her, grounding her in this sacred place that demanded her attention. Here the vibrant life around her, the chirping birds and rustling leaves, served as both a comfort and a challenge, urging her to confront the impending threat to their existence. Phaedra's voice echoed in her mind, calling her to embrace her heritage, but uncertainty gnawed at her, halting her resolve. Xara's gaze followed the chaotic dance of the water, mirroring the turmoil within her. The betrayal of her family loomed large, reshaping her identity like the twisting vines that clung to the trees. Their legacy, once one of guardianship, now felt heavy with the weight of greed disguised as tradition. She coiled with determination at the thought. Could she rise against their legacy? She shook her head, dispelling the notion of failure. If she faltered now, everything would be lost. The fragile lives of the birds she was sworn to protect hung in the balance. Clenching her fists, she dug her nails into her palms, anchoring herself as she prepared to reclaim her purpose. The falls whispered secrets only she could decipher, urging her towards action. Phaedra's voice rang in her ears, stronger now. "Remember, it's in your veins to rise and fight. You have the strength within you." A shiver coursed through her as memories of past mistakes
surged moments of silence when she should have spoken out. An uncomfortable pressure settled in her chest. She needed to act, yet the spectre of hesitation loomed large, threatening to drown her resolve. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the mist that hugged the forest floor, Xara's breath caught. She could no longer hide behind the shadows of her family's choices. The birds needed her. She could be their voice, their shield against the encroaching darkness. A sense of urgency pressed upon her, amplified by the moon's impending arrival and the dwindling time left to act. She stepped closer to the waterfall's edge, the roar a rallying cry. Would she embrace her role as guardian, or let fear dictate her fate? With a final glance at the cascading water, she whispered a vow to the spirits of the forest. "I can't let this slip through my fingers again, not after all we've sacrificed."
The roar of the waterfall drowned out Xara's thoughts, a cascade of white noise that both comforted and frightened her. She clutched the mossy rock behind which she and Phaedra hid, her fingers trembling against the cool surface, as if the essence of the forest urged her to act. Vibrant greens pulsed with life, yet the looming threat of poachers slithered through her mind like a dark vine, tightening with each breath. Time slipped away, the full moon creeping closer, a reminder of the urgency gnawing at her insides. This was no longer just a vow, it was a promise to the creatures that depended on her. No more shadows, no more hiding. Today marked her confrontation with the encroaching darkness. A rustle in the underbrush jolted Xara, adrenaline sparking her resolve. She leaned closer to Phaedra, their eyes locked, unspoken fear weighing heavy between them. The poachers' voices drifted through the mist, gruff and careless sounds of greed and cruelty. "We need to trap more. The forest is ripe for the taking. Those rare ones won't last long," one of them sneered, laughter punctuating his words. Xara's stomach twisted. The birds, their songs now a muted memory, were in peril, and Xara was frozen, rooted to the spot, as the threat loomed closer. Her body quaked, caught between instinct and the desperate need to protect. The poachers were wrong, and she was right. But what did that matter if she couldn't act? Sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting dappled shadows that danced on the ground, mocking her indecision. Panic surged as a wounded bird flitted into view, its wing dragging, a vivid flash of blue against the earthy tones. They would see it. They would take it. The moon was a ticking clock, and as the seconds slipped by, her courage dwindled. Pressing her palm against the rock, she willed the earth to fortify her resolve. "You can do this," she whispered, but the words barely broke the surface of the chaos swirling within her. The poachers grew restless, their impatience palpable, then a sharp intake of breath. Phaedra's hand gripped Xara's arm, her eyes wide with terror. They had spotted the wounded bird. "Xara, we can't let them—" Phaedra's voice trembled, a thread of fear weaving through her words. Xara's chest tightened, her heartbeat pounding in her ears, urging her to act, yet doubt settled over her like a shroud. She had promised to protect them, but here she crouched behind the rock, wrestling with her fear. Could she truly confront the darkness? Her gaze flickered to the moon, looming large in the sky, an unyielding reminder of time. Every heartbeat was a question, every breath a plea for strength. The poachers edged closer, their conversations rife with cruelty, calling for their traps. Tension thrummed through Xara's body, every nerve ending alight with fear and urgency. She could almost sense. Chapter 2. Embers of Resolve. Dusk draped whispering falls in shadows, the vibrant greens of the forest fading into muted hues. Cayen crept forward, her pulse quickening, echoing the distant drums of an approaching storm. 3 nights remained until the full moon, and with it her loved one would be beyond saving. They had to investigate the bird colony tonight, ensuring its safety from the poachers who sought to extinguish its fragile existence. The moment pressed heavily on her, making it hard to breathe. She glanced at Phaedra, determination reflected in their eyes, both knowing the stakes were higher than ever. Every rustle in the underbrush made Xara's spine tingle with apprehension. The rainforest buzzed with life, but tonight it felt like an ominous chorus warning her of the danger lurking nearby. "We gotta move, Xara. Those traps could be anywhere, and we can't let 'em hurt the birds. Time's slipping away real fast," Phaedra urged, her eyes darting in the shadows. Xara nodded, acutely aware of the ticking clock in her mind. The full moon loomed, casting a shadow over their mission and amplifying the threat to the birds and her loved one. She stepped cautiously, the damp earth squelching beneath her feet, each sound amplified in the heavy silence.
Suddenly, a flash of metal caught her eye, a trap, cruel and gleaming, nestled amongst the foliage. Xara's breath hitched. They were closer than she'd imagined. "Look!" She pointed, a cold knot forming in her stomach as she surveyed the network of traps scattered like deadly flowers throughout the sacred nesting grounds. "We have to disable them before it's too late." But as she moved to reach for one, a loud crack echoed nearby, freezing her in place. Her heart raced with panic. Were they being watched? The shadows shifted and a figure emerged, tall and cloaked in darkness, eyes glinting like a predator's. Xara's instinct screamed at her to run, but the moment pressed heavily on her, making it hard to breathe. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. The figure stepped closer, revealing a jagged smile that sent chills coursing through her. "You're trespassing in dangerous territory, girl. The birds won't be the only ones in peril tonight." Xara's mind raced. The traps, the full moon, and the figure's threat all converged into a single terrifying realization. There was no way out without a confrontation. They had to act now, but at what cost? The figure lunged forward, and each heartbeat felt like an eternity. She grabbed Phaedra's arm, pulling her back just as the figure swung a fist, narrowly missing them both. "We need to fight or flee, but we have to decide quickly."
Dusk settled over Whispering Falls, painting the sky in hues of orange and deep purple. Xara stood at the edge of the precipice, the roar of the waterfall mingling with distant bird calls, echoing through the vibrant rainforest. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ripe tobacco, remnants of foragers' bounty. Children's laughter floated through the air, a stark reminder of carefree moments now distant. Phaedra, her steadfast companion with sun-kissed hair and a determined gaze, stood by her side, offering a handful of crickets roasted in achiote, a staple snack she insisted on bringing. But the taste was lost on Xara, images of the poacher's traps looming in her mind, a danger to the very birds they sought to protect. Phaedra nudged Xara playfully, her elbow jabbing gently. "S'mon, Xara, ya gotta eat. Can't think clear on an empty belly." She offered a cricket, glistening with spices, the aroma mingling with the river's freshness. Xara hesitated, taking it reluctantly. Each bite sent her thoughts spiraling back to their last feast under the stars, blissfully unaware of the threats now looming over their beloved wildlife. The waterfall's roar morphed into an ominous reminder of the stakes at hand. A shout tore through the twilight, jolting Xara from her reverie. A skilled bird keeper from the settlement waved his arms, urgency etched across his face. "They've set more traps. You have to hurry." Adrenaline surged as vivid images of the trapped birds flooded her mind. She instinctively stepped forward, but Phaedra gently pulled her back, a calming presence amidst the storm of emotions. "We can't rush in without a plan. Remember the last time?" Frustration bubbled within Xara. Phaedra's words rang true, yet time was slipping away. She glanced at the families gathering on the bustling street, the sound of children's laughter a stark contrast to their urgent plight. The moment bore the weight of past mistakes and future uncertainties. Taking a deep breath, Xara let the cool dusk settle over her, igniting a spark of determination. "We'll protect 'em no matter what. For the Skykeeper, for Avestra, we ain't failing again." Her vow resonated like a battle cry, echoing the unyielding resolve in her heart. In the distance, the call of a lone bird rang clear, reminding them of what was at stake. The moon hung in the sky, a silent witness to their commitment as they braced to confront the encroaching darkness threatening Whispering Falls. Dusk enveloped Whispering Falls, casting long shadows that danced among the towering trees and glistening waterfall. The air was rich with the scent of damp earth and wild thyme, creating an atmosphere that was both enchanting and tense. Xara Cayen crouched low behind a thicket, her heart pounding as she scanned the shimmering paths. Only 3 nights remained until the full moon, when her beloved Avestra would be lost forever unless she uncovered the evidence needed to expose the poachers threatening the sacred bird colony. Every second counted. The fate of the birds and her loved one hung in the balance. Xara crept forward, glancing at Phaedra, whose brow furrowed with concern. "We need to document these traps quickly. If we don't gather enough evidence, the colony won't survive, and Avestra." Her voice trailed off, the weight of her unspoken fears palpable in the dim light. Phaedra nodded, her eyes darting around the terrain as if the shadows themselves were alive. They had no time to waste. Each moment felt like a countdown, the reality of the approaching full moon pressing down on them. Xara knelt beside a trap, fingers trembling as she fumbled for her camera.
The metallic glint of a snare caught her eye, and she forced herself to breathe steadily, aware that the poachers could be watching. As she captured the first photo, a sudden rustle nearby shattered the tense silence. Xara exchanged a worried glance with Phaedra, whose wide eyes mirrored her apprehension. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. They froze, hearts racing, blending deeper into the shadows. The rustling grew closer, branches snapping underfoot, and dread twisted in Xara's stomach. They were vulnerable, exposed. Time stretched thin, leaving Xara with a single choice: to move now. But where could they go? A figure suddenly emerged from the underbrush, a dark silhouette with something glinting ominously in the fading light. Xara's pulse quickened, a poacher weapon drawn, eyes scanning the area. "Get down!" Phaedra hissed, pushing Xara behind a nearby boulder, just as the poacher's gaze locked onto their hiding spot. The air felt charged with danger, a silence thick enough to choke on, and Xara's thoughts raced with every passing second. They were out of time. The full moon threatened to steal everything she loved. The poacher stepped closer, and Xara's heart hammered in her chest. She could almost feel Avestra's fate pressing down on her, urging her to act. "We need that evidence, Xara," Phaedra urged, her voice barely above a whisper. But how could they risk it? The poacher was right there, and each heartbeat felt like a countdown to disaster. Xara glanced at the camera, the evidence they desperately needed. If they didn't act soon, both the birds and Avestra would be lost. The decision weighed heavily on her, a clock ticking louder than ever. In that moment, determination ignited within.
As dusk draped its velvet cloak over Whispering Falls, a cool mist shimmered in the air, swirling around Xara like an ethereal embrace. The sun dipped behind towering trees, casting long shadows that danced upon the forest floor, where vibrant bioluminescent fungi flickered to life, illuminating the path ahead. The scent of damp earth mingled with the sweet perfume of blooming orchids, drawing her deeper into the sanctuary. A symphony of rustling leaves and distant bird calls filled her ears, both soothing and unsettling, while the cool spray from the waterfall kissed her skin, a reminder of the beauty and fragility surrounding her. Yet an undercurrent of tension crackled in the air, urging her onward. Her heart raced, heavy with the weight of their mission. With each careful step, Xara's pulse quickened, a primal rhythm echoing the urgency of their mission. She glanced at Phaedra, her friend's expression taut with resolve as they approached the gnarled roots of ancient trees, their twisted forms creating a natural archway. The rustling of unseen creatures echoed through the underbrush, heightening her senses. Suddenly, a sharp metallic clang shattered the tranquil ambience. Panic seized her as she turned, locking onto the glint of cruel traps set among the lush foliage, their presence a stark contrast to the sacred beauty of the falls. "We have to do something," she whispered, a tremor lacing her voice as memories of past betrayals flickered like dark shadows in her mind. The air crackled with tension as they crept closer, the waterfall's roar mixing with the haunting calls of the forest. Each trap she spotted sent a wave of nausea rolling through her. "They're everywhere, Phaedra," she breathed, the bitter taste of fear coating her tongue. The vibrant colors of the forest dulled before her, casting a pall over what was once enchanting. Yet beneath that fear, a flicker of determination ignited. She could not let the past dictate her actions any longer. "We have to protect them. We have to fight back," she urged, her voice steadying as she crouched to examine the nearest trap, the cold metal biting her fingertips, reminding her of the cruelty she vowed to oppose. The light faded further as the last rays of sunlight faded into the encroaching night, shadows thickening, wrapping the forest in an ominous shroud. The waterfall's roar now mingled with the distant calls of the forest, their echoes like a haunting lament. Xara's resolve solidified. She could almost feel the spirits of the rainforest surrounding her, urging her to act. With the moon approaching its full bloom, time was slipping away. "Together we can stop them, Phaedra," she whispered, urgency igniting the very air around her. The sacredness of this place enveloped her, and she knew in her. Dusk draped the gathering grove in shadows, filling the air with a chorus of distressed cries that echoed through the trees. Xara's pulse quickened as she and Phaedra crept closer to the source of the turmoil. The sacred birds, their vibrant feathers a tapestry of life, were in peril, and time was slipping away with the full moon fast approaching in 3 nights. If they didn't act now, the poachers would trap the last of the colony, taking with them the chance to save the beloved birds and Xara's family honor. "We have to find out what's happening," she whispered, her voice taut with urgency. "We can't let this happen again."
As they edged closer, the reality of the scene struck Xara like a punch to the gut. Two men, rough and unkempt, set traps with grim efficiency. The sound of snapping jaws pierced the air, mingling with the anguished cries of the birds. "They're killing them," she exclaimed, her voice barely audible. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet she couldn't abandon the birds. The memory of her betrayal anchored her to the ground. "What do we do?" Phaedra whispered, her brow knitted tightly in anxiety. The full moon loomed, a countdown to disaster. They had to act fast before it was too late. Xara swallowed hard, weighing their options with a dry throat. Confronting the poachers directly felt like throwing herself into a fire, but doing nothing meant the birds would be lost forever. She clenched her fists, drawing strength from the sacred grove that had always been her refuge. "We can't just stand here, Phaedra. We need to distract them, create a diversion." Her heart raced with a fierce determination. With only 3 nights until the full moon, every second counted. If they failed, she'd never forgive herself, and she might lose her loved one to those who sought to silence him forever. But how? They're armed, and we... Phaedra's voice trailed off, the flicker of doubt evident in her eyes. The clock ticked ominously, each moment weighing heavily on them. The birds' cries crescendoed, a desperate plea that shattered Xara's hesitation. "We have to save them," she snapped, urgency igniting her resolve. "I'll draw their attention. You get the birds out of here. Go." Before Phaedra could protest, Xara dashed into the underbrush. Adrenaline coursed through her, sharp and clear, even as fear clutched her throat. The poachers turned, their eyes narrowing as they spotted Xara weaving through the trees, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She could hear Phaedra's hurried breaths behind her, could feel the weight of their mission pressing down with every step. "Get the birds!" she shouted over her shoulder, determination surging through her. But, as she looked back, Phaedra's clenched jaw and wide eyes spoke volumes of her fear and resolve, and Xara knew this was only the beginning of their fight. Shadows.
Chapter 3. Echoes of Awakening. The air hung thick with an urgency that stung Xara's lungs as she navigated the underbrush of Whispering Falls. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, dappling the ground in golden patches. But the beauty morphed into a cruel deception. Just ahead, the low guttural laughter of poachers echoed through the trees, mingling with the frantic chirps of captured birds. The moon would soon rise, and with it the chance to save her loved one would vanish. Clenching her jaw, Xara steeled herself. Phaedra's breaths echoed in her mind, mingling with fear and resolve. This was more than a rescue, it was a reckoning. Crouching low, Xara crept closer, each snap of a twig beneath her feet amplifying the tension. The poachers, armed and careless, circled a makeshift cage, the captured birds fluttering in desperation. Metal glinted in the slivers of light, their weapons a brutal reminder of the danger she faced. Xara's fingers curled into fists, nails digging into her palms. Acting now might save the birds, but the risk weighed heavily on her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet the cries of the birds pierced through her uncertainty, urging her forward. Inching toward the clearing, the poachers' voices carried sneering comments about their next target, a rare parrot known to nest nearby. Her stomach twisted, the urgency of her mission igniting a fire in her veins. Proof was essential to alert the others, to gather support, but as her fingers reached for her communicator, a shadow shifted nearby. One of the poachers turned, eyes narrowing, scanning the trees. "Did you hear that?" he barked, stepping closer. Panic surged through Xara, and she bolted, her legs propelled her faster, urgency fueling her escape. Branches whipped at her arms as she fled, the sounds of the poachers fading behind her. Yet their words echoed in her mind, a haunting melody of urgency and despair. They were going after the parrot tonight. She had to act fast. The weight of the impending full moon pressed upon her, a relentless reminder that time was no ally. Xara stumbled but regained her footing, determination surging anew. She had to warn Phaedra, to rally the others before it was too late. The forest blurred around her, a cacophony of green and brown, until the path materialized ahead, and she slowed. With a deep breath, she steadied herself, the world around her suddenly heavy with the knowledge she carried. Xara paused at the edge of the grove, the cool breeze caressing her cheeks, mingling hope with despair, staring into the depths of the forest. The birds' cries remained a haunting reminder. Morning light filtered through the canopy, dappling the ground at Whispering Falls. The gentle melody of water tumbling over stones contrasted sharply with the chaos of the day before. Xara perched on the mossy bank, knees drawn to her chest, the cool earth steadying her. The cries of captured birds lingered in her mind, their freedom stolen by merciless hands. The moon loomed high, an eerie reminder of fleeting time. Guilt twisted in her stomach, a coil of shame and fear. She had to act. Could she face the darkness again? Phaedra emerged from the underbrush, urgency lacing her voice. "Xara, we need to talk strategy. They'll strike again. We can't let them take more." The sight of her friend snapped Xara from her thoughts. Phaedra's eyes glistened with unshed tears, reflecting the pain in Xara's heart. Nodding, Xara felt a surge of resolve igniting within her. No more running, no more hiding. "What's your plan, Phaedra?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Xara shifted, fingers tracing the patterns in the moss. "We gather evidence, pictures, notes. We can go to the council. They have to listen to us. We can't let this continue." Each word felt heavy with unspoken doubts. Phaedra's fierce gaze locked onto hers. "And if that doesn't work?" The question lingered, a stark reminder of their fragility. Xara swallowed hard, fear creeping up her throat. They had to be brave. The thought of confronting the poachers twisted her stomach, but silence was worse. Inaction meant the fate of the birds fading into shadows. "I don't know if I can do this, Phaedra. What if they find us first?" Xara's uncertainty hung in the air. Phaedra reached out, grasping her hand with fierce determination. "No way! We can't let fear run the show. Together we stand a chance." Xara drew a shaky breath, pulse quickening at the thought of confrontation. Yet Phaedra's resolve was infectious, a balm for her doubt. Perhaps they could be stronger than their fears. The sun climbed higher, spilling warmth over the sacred ground. Anticipation thrummed in the air as they plotted their next steps. A burgeoning sense of purpose filled Xara. This was their moment. The decision weighed heavily on her, but rebellion simmered beneath the surface. "Let's do it then. Let's expose them. We can't let the moon rise without a fight." Her voice rang with newfound conviction. Phaedra squeezed her hand tighter, and Xara felt the strength of their unity against the looming darkness. At the water's edge, the peaceful rush of the falls continued to whisper secrets of the forest. Xara gazed at the reflection of the trees in the shimmering surface, their roots deeply embedded in the earth, unwavering against the current. The midday sun hung high above the gathering grove, its rays filtering through the leaves and casting playful shadows on the uneven ground, shaped by ancient upheavals. Xara stood on a weathered stump, her heart racing as she addressed the gathered crowd. "We have 3 days left, friends, 3 days to protect our sacred birds from the poachers threatening them like a storm on the horizon." Her voice rang with urgency, echoing off the towering trees that surrounded the gathering. Faces in the crowd reflected a mix of concern and skepticism, some nodding while others crossed their arms, uncertainty etched on their brows. The distant roar of a waterfall and the rustling leaves underscored the gravity of the moment, a stark reminder of what was at stake. Xara gestured toward the horizon, her hands steady but her resolve wavering. "These men are blind to the beauty of our land and the creatures we cherish. They're hunting the last of the colony, and if we don't act now, we'll lose them forever." A murmur of discontent rippled through the crowd, soon interrupted by a voice from the back. "And what's to stop them from turning on us if we interfere? You want us to risk our lives for your wild claims?" Each word felt like a blow, threatening to unravel her determination. She fought to maintain her composure, the weight of their doubt pressing in around her. "You're walking a dangerous path, Xara," the man continued, his voice rising and igniting further dissent among the villagers. "What proof do you have? Just your word. How do we know you're not just trying to scare us?" The crowd shifted, anticipation giving way to hesitation, and Xara's stomach twisted in knots. She had witnessed the poachers' destruction. Their cruelty was undeniable. But how could she convey that urgency before the moon was full and the birds were silenced forever? "Listen," she shouted, urgency lacing her voice. "In 3 nights it will be too late. We'll be mourning the loss of the colony instead of fighting for its survival. You want proof? Look at the trees. The stillness, the birds are vanishing, and if we don't unite now, we'll lose them all." Her voice faltered, the crowd's eyes boring into her, disbelief palpable. "If we don't act, my loved one will be lost forever, like the birds," she cried, but murmurs of uncertainty persisted. A surge of determination welled within her. She refused to back down.
Just as she prepared to speak again, a sudden snap of a branch echoed from the woods, a chilling reminder that time was slipping away.
The crack of a branch splintered the air, a sharp reminder of the encroaching danger. Xara stood at the edge of Whispering Falls, sunlight filtering through the dense canopy and casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. In this sacred space, whispers of the rainforest cradled the secrets of the past, while fear pierced the tranquility. The cries of captured birds echoed, distorted by desperation. She had to warn them. The weight of inaction clung to her like a shroud, the memory of her loved one's fate shadowing her thoughts. Phaedra's hand gripped her wrist, urging her to flee, but Xara's gaze remained fixed on the trapped creatures, her feet rooted to the earth, torn between the impulse to run and the need to act. From the shadows emerged the poachers, rough hands and cruel smiles betraying their malicious intentions. A knot twisted in Xara's stomach as one man cradled a sparrow, its wings fluttering helplessly against his grip. "Get out!" Phaedra hissed, urgency lacing her voice. But Xara's pulse quickened, fueled by fear and a surge of anger that threatened to erupt. "We can't leave them!" she spat, her voice fierce yet trembling. The poacher laughed, a harsh bark that echoed through the trees, blending with the frantic chirps of the captured birds. They deserved freedom, a chance to escape. She couldn't let them be silenced. Xara moved forward, each step a battle against the invisible chains of her own fear. She spotted a glint of metal, a cage, twisted and cruel, housing more than just birds. It held her nightmares, the echoes of her loved ones' cries. She shuddered at the thick scent of moss and decay, yet determination ignited within her. Turning to Phaedra, her eyes blazed with resolve. "We have to distract them. We can't let them take another. Not now." Phaedra's eyes widened, a mix of admiration and dread crossing her features. "Xara, you're risking everything." Each word crackled with urgency. Xara shook her head, her voice low and fierce. "I won't let fear dictate my actions, not again." The poachers were too close. The flash of their knives glinted in her sight. A plan began to form, half-formed thoughts colliding in her mind. She would create a diversion, something to draw their attention away from the birds. The weight of her decision settled heavily on her shoulders, but it felt right. She glanced back at the birds, their eyes wide and pleading. "I won't abandon you." With a deep breath, Xara stepped into the open, her voice rising above the din of the forest. "Hey, over here." The poachers turned, startled, momentarily distracted. The forest pulsed around her, each sound amplified, every rustle and whisper heightening her awareness. As they shifted their focus toward her, the cage of... As dusk settled over Whispering Falls, the cries of captured birds echoed relentlessly in Xara's mind, disrupting the tranquility of the moment. She sat at the water's edge, the soft murmur of the stream contrasting sharply with the turmoil within her. Phaedra, a reassuring presence beside her, radiated a calm that seemed to tether Xara amidst the storm of unspoken thoughts. The fading light draped the landscape in long shadows that twisted like the doubts gnawing at Xara. Would the forest remember her courage, or would it forget her, just as it had others before? The moon hung low, amplifying the weight of her family's legacy with every heartbeat. Xara's fingers skimmed the cool surface of the water, sending ripples through her reflection. The quiet suffocated her, and each glance at Phaedra twisted a knot of gratitude and guilt in her stomach. Phaedra's eyes, mirroring her own conflict, urged her to act. "We can't just sit here and let them suffer, Phaedra," Xara murmured, her voice barely rising above the ambient sounds of the forest. Phaedra's response was immediate, her tone urgent. "If we stay put, those poachers are going to keep hurting those birds. We need to act like now." The truth of her words hung between them, heavy yet electrifying. Xara hesitated, fear tightening its grip around her resolve. What if she failed? What if her decision cost them everything? The forest felt alive, its presence both comforting and intimidating. She stood, anchored in place, staring at the horizon where the last rays of sunlight kissed the treetops. The thought of confrontation churned in her stomach, but the image of the captured birds ignited a fierce determination within her. They had once soared free, vibrant and alive, and here she was, teetering on the edge of her own fears. "I can't let this continue," she insisted, a newfound resolve coursing through her. But could she truly rise against the tide of violence her own kin had embraced? The moon climbed higher, its silvery light illuminating the path she must take. Xara's resolve wavered,
the unknown creeping back in, but she clenched her fists, grounding herself in the reality of her choice. Phaedra's warmth beside her was a beacon of support, reminding her she was not alone in this fight. Taking a deep breath, she inhaled the scent of damp earth, and urgency filling the air. Time was running out. "We do it together," she declared, her voice steady despite the tempest within. "We'll confront them together." A wave of clarity washed over her, as if the forest itself had breathed life into her resolve. The moonlight shimmered on the water, reflecting not just the landscape, but the gravity of her decision. Xara turned to Phaedra, their eyes.
Chapter 4. Awakening in the Mist. Dawn spilled over Whispering Falls, painting the treetops in gold and amber. Xara stood at the edge of the waterfall, the powerful cascade enveloping her in a misty embrace. The scent of wet earth and blooming orchids filled the air, grounding her amidst the shadows of her family's betrayal. Today marked a crucial moment. She would gather the community to protect the sacred species thriving within their midst. Yet doubts whispered at the edges of her resolve, echoing the past. Did they truly trust her? Would they stand by her? Xara turned to face the gathering crowd, their apprehension palpable as they shifted under the weight of unspoken words. The tension in the air coiled like a spring, ready to snap. "We got to do something fast. The poachers are coming, and our precious creatures." A murmur rose, slicing through her resolve. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. "I know my family betrayed you. I know the scars run deep, but today I stand before you as a neighbor and a friend, leaving the Cayen name behind. We share this land. Its spirit flows through us all." With each word her conviction solidified. The waterfall crashed behind her, a relentless reminder of nature's might. A few heads lifted, eyes narrowing, considering her plea. The full moon approaches, bringing with it the chance to save what remains. We can't allow another betrayal to tear us apart. We need to unite for the forest, for the creatures that cannot speak for themselves. A man stepped forward, skepticism etched on his brow. "And why should we trust you, Xara? After everything—" His voice, low and gravelly, cut through the air. She met his gaze unflinchingly. "Because I've lost too. I ain't letting fear call the shots for us anymore. Together we can protect what is sacred to us, or we can let it slip away, just as my family once did." His eyes softened for a fleeting moment, and she seized the opportunity. "Every moment we hesitate, the poachers gain ground. This isn't just my fight, it's ours. It always has been." Silence settled over the crowd, heavy with the weight of her words. The sun ascended in a brilliant display, illuminating faces once shrouded in doubt. Hope flooded her, illuminating her thoughts like the sun spilling across the sky. Could they envision the shared future just beyond their hesitation? She inhaled, ready to speak again, but the tension lingered in the air. Would they seize this chance and stand united, or would they allow the forest to whisper its secrets to the wind, forgotten once more? The sun's first light danced over the rippling surface of Whispering Falls, casting shimmering reflections that flickered like Xara's racing thoughts. She perched on a moss-covered rock, her heart pounding as she gazed into the cascading water. 3 nights remained until the full moon sealed her loved one's fate. Betrayed by her family and distrusted by her community, their expectations pressed down on her like a weight, suffocating her with despair. This was it. She needed to confront her feelings about the betrayal to find clarity on how to fight for the sacred species that had become her only hope. Yet doubts crept in, dark and ominous, as she struggled to steady her breath. Xara's fingers brushed the cool stone, grounding her as memories flooded back her father's cruel words and her mother's shameful glance. The roar of the waterfall filled her ears, drowning out the rising tide of despair. "What if they don't trust me?" she murmured, her voice barely rising above the rush of water. The community was still reeling from the betrayal, their eyes clouded with skepticism. She couldn't shake the fear that she would fail them, just as her family had failed her. Time slipped through her fingers like the water rushing past, and with each passing moment her loved one slipped further out of reach. The rustle of leaves broke her reverie. Phaedra emerged, her expression mirroring Xara's turmoil. "I thought I'd find you here. I needed to escape the whispers. Everyone's talking about your family, and you." Phaedra's words tightened the knot in Xara's stomach. "I'm tired of being a target for their fear." Xara admitted, her voice trembling. "They think I'm just like them. How can I lead when they don't believe in me?" Phaedra's eyes softened with understanding, yet doubt flickered across her face. "We have to stick together, Xara. But what if everything goes wrong?
The full moon is just 3 nights away, and if we don't act fast, it'll be too late for them. And for us, she urged, urgency sharpening her tone. Xara's breath became shallow, the weight of each moment pressing down on her. We need a plan to rally the community, to expose the poachers and reclaim their trust. But how? The uncertainty gnawed at her, a hollow ache. Phaedra grabbed her hand, squeezing tightly. We have to face our fears. If we don't, everything we love will be lost. We can't let them silence us. We have to show them we're stronger together, or we'll lose everything by the time the moon is full. Xara nodded, swallowing hard, and felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Yet, as they spoke, the shadows of doubt deepened, whispering warnings that echoed in the depths of her mind. With a deep breath, Xara stood, the mist of the falls enveloping her, invigorating yet haunting. Let's call it.
The gathering grove buzzed with electric tension, the rustling leaves and distant waterfall merging into a symphony of unease. The scent of damp earth, rich and loamy, sparked memories of Xara's childhood, her father's laughter mingling with the calls of sacred birds. Now doubt thickened the air, whispers slicing through the gathering crowd like shadows. Xara fidgeted with the small pouch of herbs at her waist, the familiar texture anchoring her confidence as she stepped onto the rough stone platform. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on her skin, but all she could see were the skeptical faces of the elders looming before her. "We gotta come together to guard what's sacred, or we'll be losing it for good," Xara began, her voice soft yet urgent. She cast a quick glance at Phaedra, who nodded encouragingly, the weight of the moment heavy between them. "The poachers, like shadows, they creep closer, threatening the very essence of our being. We must unite, or risk losing everything." The crowd murmured, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. A figure stepped forward, cracking a smile that held no warmth. "What's this? A little gathering for the lost and forgotten?" One of the poachers taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. Xara's resolve wavered under their intimidating presence. "We can't let fear dictate our fate. We rise together, or we fall apart." Memories of the countless injured birds she had cared for flooded her mind, their fragile lives cradled in her palms. "We were meant to protect them." Phaedra stepped forward, her gentle voice cutting through the rising panic like a balm. "Ain't no different, really. We can fix this land, save the birds. But we gotta stick together." Her eyes swept the crowd, seeking connection. "Trust is built, not given. Let us not forget who we truly are." As the poachers' laughter faded into the background, Xara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in rhythm with the distant waterfall. The moment weighed on her, thick with unspoken fears and unresolved ties, yet she stood firm, channeling all her past regrets into a fierce resolve. "I will not let the shadows of the past eclipse our future. We must act now, before it's too late." The words spilled from her lips, raw and unfiltered, pleading for unity within their community. Doubt persisted, a spectre haunting her thoughts, but she pressed on, determined to fight for the dying birds and her own fractured heart. At dusk, the air was thick with the scent of damp earth, punctuated by the distant roar of whispering falls. Cayen perched at the edge of a rocky outcrop, the relentless ticking of the clock mirroring the rhythm of her pulse. 3 nights until the full moon, 3 nights until her loved one would slip beyond reach, lost forever if the poachers weren't stopped. She had to unite the fractured community against this looming threat, but shadows stretched over the land, mirroring her growing doubt. Would they trust her, or would her family's betrayal forever stain her efforts? Phaedra's footsteps crunched on the gravel as she approached, her brow furrowed in concern. "Xara, we don't have time to waste. The elders need to see our resolve, but they're still whispering behind your back. They doubt you. They doubt us." Her words struck Xara like a cold wind. The warm glow of the sunset contrasted with the chill of betrayal that tightened around her chest. "I get it, but how am I supposed to face them when my own family's legacy looms like a dark cloud? What if they see me as just the traitor's kid?" Xara's voice trembled, torn between urgency and fear. She clenched her hands, knuckles white, as the waterfall crashed below, a relentless reminder of their dwindling time. Phaedra placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "Then we face it head-on. Let's gather the elders and lay it all out. We can't let the past hold us back, especially with the moon coming up. They need to see we're better together." A flicker of hope ignited within Xara, but it was quickly overshadowed by the fear of exposure. Could she truly lead? As the last rays of sunlight dipped behind the horizon, Xara inhaled sharply, her breath shallow.
This was a moment for action, yet every nerve in her body screamed for retreat. What if they refuse? What if they see me as weak? Panic threatened to drown her, a rising tide of fear. Phaedra's grip tightened, her voice fierce. No more excuses, we have to face this head on. If we can't unite, we've already lost. The moon rises in 3 nights, and so does our fate. Xara nodded, her jaw set and eyes narrowed with resolve. All right, we'll invite them for a gathering. But what if they turn us away? The words hung heavy in the air, each second echoing in her mind like a countdown. As the first stars flickered to life above, she whispered, "We have to try. We have to believe they will listen, or everything we've fought for will slip away like the final glow of twilight." The night enveloped them in shadows as the clock ticked closer to the full moon, a heavy weight in the air.
Dusk settled over the gathering grove, casting long shadows among the towering trees. Xara stood at the entrance, her resolve strengthened with each steady breath. The air was thick with tension, the scent of damp earth mingling with the sweet perfume of blooming night flowers. She had 3 nights until the full moon would rise and seal her loved one's fate. Confronting Phaedra was no longer a choice, it was a necessity. Clenching her fists and nervously fidgeting with her hands, she stepped forward, determination flaring within her. "I need answers now," she demanded, each word laced with the weight of her family's betrayal. Every moment wasted brought her closer to losing everything she held dear. Phaedra leaned against an ancient oak, her posture relaxed, but the flicker of fear in her eyes betrayed her calm facade. "Xara, you don't understand. It was never meant to." Xara interrupted, frustration boiling over. "Stop, just stop deflecting. I know about the betrayal. I need to know how deep it runs." The shadows danced around them, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting an eerie glow. Phaedra hesitated, and Xara's heart raced in panic. Each second stretched painfully. "What if I told you it wasn't what you think?" Phaedra's voice trembled, urgency reflecting Xara's own. It was a setup to protect the rebellion's true intentions. They were planning something violent, something that could destroy everything we care about. Xara's anger mixed with disbelief, thoughts racing. "A setup? You expect me to believe that?" Phaedra's gaze shifted away, searching for an escape. "Believe what you want, but know this. Whatever your family did was to hide the truth from you. The rebellion isn't just a fight for freedom, it's a fight for control, and innocent lives will be lost, unless we act. The full moon is 3 nights away, and your loved one isn't the only one in danger." The urgency demanded action. "You're asking me to trust you, after everything?" The words weighed heavily on her tongue, but the truth ignited determination within her. A choice loomed large, and there was no time to waste. "I will protect them, Phaedra. I have to. I can't let my past lead to more loss. Not again." Determination surged as Phaedra nodded, fear mixed with respect in her gaze. "Then we need to act fast. The longer we wait, the closer we get to the full moon, and the more lives will be lost." Xara felt a shift within her. Guilt transformed into a steely resolve. She stepped closer, ready to face whatever was next. She would not let her loved one slip away without a fight. Xara turned, the weight of the revelation settling heavily on her. The gathering grove, once a sanctuary, now felt like a place of conflict. She glanced back. Chapter 5 Embrace of Dawn. At dawn, Whispering Falls came alive with a palette of soft pastels, its beauty stark against the turmoil coiling within Xara. Behind her, the gathering grove faded into a distant sanctuary, urging her onward as urgency coursed through her veins. Phaedra's words echoed in her mind, the truth must be revealed, and allies were vital. Time slipped away, much like the fate of the sacred birds, now vulnerable to poachers. The earthy scent of moss and damp leaves filled her lungs, a reminder of what was at stake. A rustle in the underbrush signaled impending conflict. She could wait no longer. Today was the day of action. Xara entered the clearing, adrenaline flooding her senses as her eyes locked onto the poachers. They were armed and laughing, their amusement slicing through the serene morning air. Vibrant sacred birds fluttered in makeshift cages, their desperate cries mingling with the laughter, creating a symphony of despair. Each heartbeat intensified her need to act. Crouching low, she coiled like a spring, ready to unleash fury. If there was a chance, she had to seize it, but the odds loomed over her like dark clouds. Swallowing her apprehension, she clenched her fists and took a step forward, ready to confront the threat.
The poachers noticed her, eyes narrowing with recognition. Fear gripped her as she slipped behind a tree, rough bark scraping her palm. Breath quickened, each inhale sharp with adrenaline as the poacher's careless mockery filled the air, conjuring images of the fragile soul's fate. "What do you think you're doing, girl?" One taunted, his gun glinting in the early light. "No, not like this. Not today." The echo of Phaedra's determination clashed with the cold doubt settling in her gut. Trembling, Xara peeked around the tree trunk, desperation clawing at her. They were too numerous, too well armed. No plan, no backup, only her and the burden of the sacred birds. With a sharp breath she pivoted, retreating into the forest's embrace. The sacred birds disappeared from view, their cries swallowed by rustling leaves, leaving a dull ache in her chest. How could she abandon them? A tear trickled down her cheek, a silent promise intertwined with resolve. As she staggered deeper into the shadows, the poacher's laughter faded, replaced by the forest's symphony, offering no comfort. The moon hung high, indifferent to her turmoil, a reminder of her failure. How long until it was too late for the sacred birds? The thought tightened her chest as she slipped further into the embrace of the forest, the shadows wrapping around her like a shroud. With each step away from the clearing, the weight of the world pressed down, and she vowed that this wasn't.
Sunlight trickled through the canopy, dappling the ground with flickering patterns of gold and shadow. Xara stood at the edge of Whispering Falls, where the air brimmed with the sweet earthy scent of damp moss and blooming orchids. A cool mist kissed her skin, refreshing yet thick with humidity. The waterfall's roar was like a wild beast, drowning everything else out, and making it hard to think straight. Around her, vibrant green vines spiraled up ancient trees, their gnarled roots creating natural seats that felt both welcoming and foreboding. In this enchanting sanctuary, danger lurked like a predator unseen, and the moment felt thick with urgency. Xara crouched low, her heart racing as she peered through the leaves, akin to a deer spotting danger. The rustling of leaves announced the presence of the poachers, their voices low and conspiratorial, tinged with greed. In the distance, the sacred birds chirped softly, their calls a haunting reminder of what was at stake. She pressed her palms against the earth, the rainforest's heartbeat resonating through her fingers. A sudden gust of wind fluttered through the leaves, carrying the scent of wet stones and blooming orchids, igniting a fire of determination within her. She had to act, but how? Just then, Phaedra emerged from the mist, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around them. "Whoa there, Xara. We can't just charge in, they've got weapons and mean business," Phaedra warned, her voice trembling like the leaves in the wind. The tension heightened, and Xara's pulse quickened, each beat echoing the urgency of the moment. Phaedra's hand brushed against Xara's shoulder, grounding her. The cool mist from the falls swirled around them, amplifying the gravity of their predicament, as if the spirits of the rainforest were holding their breath in anticipation. Suddenly, a sharp crack of a branch echoed through the clearing, and Xara's breath caught. The poachers had discovered the hiding spot of the sacred birds, their harsh laughter slicing through the serene beauty of the environment. Xara froze, torn between the instinct to fight and the desperate need to retreat. The waterfall cascaded behind her, its roar merging with her turmoil, overwhelming her thoughts. The choice lay heavy on her shoulders, a moment stretched taut, teetering on the brink of disaster. As the poachers encroached upon the sacred birds, Xara sensed the forest's silent watchfulness, a solemn reminder of what was at stake. The mist from the falls mingled with her rising fear, and the scent of damp earth filled her lungs, grounding her even as her heart raced. Shadows danced around her, flickering in the dappled light, whispering secrets of courage and sacrifice. In this enchanted yet perilous realm, she had to make a choice. Confront the... As dusk settled over Whispering Falls, the mist clung to Xara's skin, wrapping her in the rainforest's embrace. The waterfall roared before her, tumultuous waters crashing over jagged rocks, creating a symphony of nature's fury. Shadows flickered and danced, echoing her inner turmoil. Betrayal twisted her gut into knots and churned within her. She had to act. The sacred birds, vital to this land, were in peril as her family's hands stained with complicity. Each breath carried the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, grounding her amid the rising tide of despair. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her to take a stand. Xara's gaze darted to the water, where sunlight shattered into 1,000 shards, each reflecting her urgent dilemma. The calls of the sacred birds echoed, their songs a haunting melody, a plea for salvation.
They were not mere creatures, they embodied the spirit of her ancestors. She curled her fingers into fists, nails biting into her palms as Phaedra stood beside her, a steadying presence. Phaedra's touch offered only a fleeting comfort against the tempest raging in Xara's heart. Why did it have to be this way? Betrayal was not just a wound, it was a legacy. Her family had prospered on the backs of the very beings they now endangered. Each stolen feather and fallen tree whispered tales of greed and neglect. The water surged, crashing against the rocks, a relentless reminder of time slipping away. The moon would soon rise, luminous and haunting, marking the point of no return. She inhaled, the scent of moss and decay mingling with dread as a yearning for change filled her. Would confronting her family's dark past bring the freedom needed to save the birds? Phaedra shifted, her voice low and steady. "You can't carry this alone, Xara. You know that, right?" The words wrapped around her like a lifeline, but deepened the chasm within. Xara nodded, her brow furrowing as uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Would they support her, or would it be another betrayal? The forest felt like a silent witness to her turmoil. The crashing water echoed her thoughts, each drop a decision teetering on the edge of uncertainty. She needed to confront her family's darkness and stand against the tide of complicity. The sun slid below the horizon, casting the world in shades of deep purple and soft gold, contrasting sharply with the gray shadows gathering in her heart. Xara stood at the edge of the falls, resolute. She could no longer hide behind ignorance. The sacred birds deserved her fight, deserved a chance to soar free. With one last glance at the water, she took a deep breath, a steadying anchor. Beneath the cascade, the spirits of the rainforest seemed to approve, urging her.
Dusk-draped whispering falls in shades of purple and gold, casting an ethereal glow on the rushing water. Cayen stood at the water's edge, heart drumming like a war drum. The full moon loomed just 3 nights away, a deadline gnawing at her insides. She needed to rally Phaedra to confront the poachers threatening the last of the sacred birds. With every passing second, the anguished cries of the captured rang in her ears, tightening the coil of desperation around her chest. This was no mere mission. It was a chance to reconcile their past mistakes and protect what remained of their heritage before it vanished, forever. Xara turned to Phaedra, her voice a fervent whisper against the roar of the waterfall. "We can't wait any longer. If we don't act now, the poachers will take them all. We have to confront them, together." Her hands trembled, not from fear but from urgency. Phaedra's gaze dropped, her shoulders slumping under the weight of unspoken fear. "Xara, they're heavily armed. We're outnumbered. What if they retaliate?" The cries of the captured birds pierced the dusk air, a stark reminder of their impending doom, and a cold knot twisted in Xara's stomach as she fought to remain resolute. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Xara pressed, desperation clawing at her throat. 3 nights until the full moon. If we don't save them before then, they'll be gone, just like. She swallowed hard, the unspoken truth hanging between them. Phaedra flinched, the mention of their family's betrayal a raw wound. Yet the cries grew louder, more frantic, and Xara clenched her fists, the frustration bubbling to the surface. They had to make a choice, now. Phaedra hesitated, her gaze fixed on the forest shadows where danger lurked. "We're running out of time," Xara urged, her voice trembling. "We can't let them take what's left. I won't let them." But Phaedra shook her head, terror evident on her face, pushing back against the tide of urgency. "Phaedra, if we don't act now, we might never get another chance." The words hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. The cries resonated around them, a haunting melody of despair that drove Xara forward. Every second lost felt like another bird captured, another soul silenced. "We'll figure it out once we get there. We can't let fear rule us." But Phaedra's resolve faltered as dread coiled in her stomach. A sudden rustle from the underbrush caused both women to freeze. The poachers were closer than they thought, their voices deep and mocking, reveling in their twisted victory. Xara's stomach dropped, a wave of urgency crashed over her as dread settled in her gut. They were out of time. Grasping Phaedra's arm, she pleaded with her gaze. "We have to go now. We can't let them take another bird," just as she turned to lead the way. A loud crash echoed from the forest, followed by dusk enveloped whispering falls in shadows, the last flickers of daylight shimmering on the water's surface. A heavy sense of despair settled in Xara's chest as she sat at the water's edge, her thoughts spiraling over the betrayal of her family's legacy, echoing like the persistent roar of the falls. 3 nights until the full moon, 3 nights until poachers would silence the cries of the sacred birds forever. Each heartbeat was a countdown urging her to act. Confronting her family made her stomach churn. She felt paralyzed by the weight of it all. The tension in the air broke with the sound of Phaedra's footsteps approaching. But Xara's resolve wavered, caught between her lineage and the desperate need to save what remained. Phaedra settled beside her, eyes wide as she surveyed their surroundings. What if they catch us snooping around? She whispered, her voice trembling with fear. The moon hung low, reminding them of their impending deadline, and Xara felt the pressure building. 2 nights left. The urgency pressed down on her chest, constricting her breath, while Phaedra's anxiety coiled around her heart. Would confronting the poachers put both of them in danger? That thought gnawed at her, but every second wasted felt like a betrayal to the birds they had just seen captured. "We can't just sit here, Phaedra. It's now or never." Xara's words faltered as she stared into the rushing water, her mind racing. The poachers were ruthless, and her family's ties to them formed a tangled web she had never wanted to unravel. The truth crashed over Xara, threatening to destroy everything she cherished. The image of the innocent sacred birds fading into silence under her family's watch filled her with dread. "What choice do we have?" Phaedra's voice broke the silence, raw and desperate. The shadows of the trees stretched ominously around them, the pressure of their decision looming, dark and heavy, mirroring the chaotic rush of the water below. "We can't let fear dictate our actions, Xara." Phaedra's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and fear. What if confronting them only makes it worse? What if they retaliate? Panic surged in Xara, her thoughts racing like a wild river. She envisioned the birds, their vibrant feathers dimming as the moon approached. 3 nights left. Time felt like it was slipping through her fingers. But if we do nothing, we're complicit. She turned to Phaedra, desperation clawing at her throat. The conflict within her tore at her, loyalty to family battling against her duty to protect the sacred species. No easy answers awaited them, only the relentless pressure of time. Phaedra's breath hitched, and in that moment the stakes soared, pressing down on her. The fear of retaliation loomed, but the thought of inaction felt worse. They were running out of time, the fate of the birds pressing on their minds, relentless and urgent.
Chapter 6. Echoes of Determination. The gathering grove buzzed with life, the rustle of leaves and the calls of vibrant birds, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Xara stood on the stone platform, the damp earth beneath her feet releasing the familiar scent of rich soil and moss, stirring memories of her childhood days among the sacred birds. The calls echoed between the trees, urging her forward. Fingers trembling, she clutched the small pouch of herbs at her side, the familiar texture grounding her as the community's gaze weighed upon her like a looming shadow. Today would be different. Today she would speak the truth, however daunting it seemed to her. Her dark hair swayed gently in the breeze, framing her determined expression as her emerald eyes scanned the crowd for allies. Xara's voice rose above the murmurs, gentle yet insistent. "Hey everyone, I've got something serious to share. The winds are talking about poachers joining forces with those rebellion leaders. They're after our sacred birds, our past. We need to act." She gestured dramatically toward the canopy, as if the birds might swoop down and lend her their strength. Around her, faces shifted from curiosity to skepticism, brows furrowing. Phaedra stepped closer, her eyes soft with concern. "Xara, you know this place. Fear's got a tight grip here. What if you're wrong about this?" Xara took a breath, the scent of damp earth mingling with the sweet fragrance of wildflowers. "I'm not wrong, Phaedra. I've seen the signs, the feathers littering the ground, a warning. If we stay silent, their calls will fade into silence. We cannot let fear bind us. We must rise before it's too late." Her hands fidgeted with the pouch, each tug and twist a silent prayer for courage as she searched the crowd. Doubt lingered thick in the air, clouding her resolve. A man stepped forward, his voice gruff, laced with distrust. "And what makes you think we can trust you, Xara? You walked away from the rebellion. Why should we believe you now?" The challenge ignited a fire in her chest, the weight of her past pressing against her. She straightened, chin lifting defiantly. "I walked away to protect what is sacred. I know the cost of betrayal more than anyone here. I have lost my family, my place among the birds I cherish, but I will not lose any more." Each word struck with a heartbeat, woven with desperation. The crowd swayed, uncertainty rippling through them. Phaedra's hand found Xara's arm, squeezing gently. "But what if you're wrong? What if confronting them only brings more danger?" Her voice was a soft murmur, a lifeline. Xara savored Phaedra's warmth, a reminder of their bond amid the chaos.
The feather lay at Xara's feet, delicate and white against the dark earth, a stark reminder of what hung in the balance. The crowd's murmurs thickened the air like the electric charge before a storm. Faces shifted around her, uncertainty etched in furrowed brows and downturned mouths. The gathering grove thrummed with tension, the rustle of leaves and distant calls of birds echoing the heartbeats of the gathered community. Drawn by her urgency they stood, doubt clinging to them like mist, grounded by the moment and her purpose, a fire ignited within Xara. "Y'all, we're at a crossroads here," she said, her tones soothing like a summer breeze, the regional drawl wrapping around her words. "And our choice will determine the fate of those we love." Xara stepped forward, sunlight filtering through the canopy above, casting patterns on the ground like fleeting shadows of hope. The poachers have formed an alliance with rebellion leaders, a bond that jeopardizes their sacred species. They prey on our fears, playing us against one another while stripping our home bare. Her words flowed fiercely, a rallying cry. She locked eyes with Phaedra, who stood resolute beside her, strength radiating like a beacon. Yet even Phaedra's unwavering gaze couldn't silence the murmur of dissent that rippled through the gathering. "What if we fail?" Ansel's voice pierced the air, bitter and sharp. A man whose hands had once cradled the fragile eggs of their cherished species. Fear knitted his brow, making his hands tremble. "What if they come for us next?" His question hung like a stone. A heaviness settled in Xara's chest, but she pressed on, her voice lowering to draw them in. "If we do nothing, we guarantee our failure. If we rise together, we can protect what is ours. We've done it before." A scoff echoed from the back, arms crossed tightly. "And what of the leaders? They have power. They can crush us." The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting away. Xara's pulse quickened as she fought to break through the fear. "We are stronger than they know. They thrive on our silence. Our unity is our greatest weapon. We must be their reckoning." She raised her chin, drawing on every ounce of conviction. "Think of the lives at stake, the ones we can save together." Phaedra stepped forward, her voice a steady current amidst the turmoil. "Listen up, we ain't fighting this battle alone. The forests singing to us, nudging us to stand tall. Can you feel it?" She gestured to the trees, their leaves shimmering in agreement, rustling as if echoing her sentiment. The crowd quieted, a flicker of hope ignited in some eyes. Xara seized the moment. "Together we can form a bond stronger than their alliance. Together we can reclaim our destiny." Silence settled in, but Whispering Falls cascaded down a rocky cliff, its crystal waters sparkling like diamonds in the dappled sunlight. A shroud of mist enveloped Xara as she sat at the water's edge, the cool air refreshing against her flushed cheeks. The scent of damp earth mingled with the sweet perfume of blooming orchids, a reminder of the sacred bird colony she swore to protect. Fingers tracing the smooth, wet stones, she felt the waterfall's roar drown out her thoughts, each droplet splashing like a clock, counting down the moments until nightfall. Memories of her family's reverence for the birds surged within her, igniting her determination. The question loomed overhead. What would it cost her to stand up for the sacred? Xara fidgeted with the hem of her tunic, her nervous habit evident as she waited for her friend. The gentle crunch of leaves underfoot announced Phaedra's arrival, her silhouette framed by the golden afternoon light. "Xara?" Phaedra's voice was soothing, though concern lurked beneath the surface. "I thought I'd find you here." Xara's gaze lingered on the swirling waters, searching for answers among the currents. "Ain't it just like the falls to hold their secrets close, huh?" Phaedra settled beside her, their shoulders brushing, a comforting connection amidst the chaos of thoughts. "What kind of secrets they whisper into you today?" Phaedra's brow furrowed as she studied Xara's profile, noticing the way her fingers twitched anxiously. "You ain't really thinking about confronting them, are ya? The poachers?" A shadow crossed Xara's face, her lips pressed together in a tight line. "To confront them is to risk everything, Phaedra. My family, their hands are stained. But what if we do nothing? Our silence might cost the birds their lives." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. Phaedra took a deep breath, her empathy palpable. "But your family, they won't take kindly to it. They'll see it as a betrayal." The mist swirled around them, thickening like the tension in the air. "I've betrayed them once before, haven't I?" Xara murmured, almost drowned out by the waterfall's roar. The thought chilled her,
but resolve flickered within. I can't let fear dictate my actions this time. The birds deserve better. We deserve better. Phaedra's expression shifted, a mix of fear and admiration crossing her features. You'd risk everything for them? Xara turned to face Phaedra, the forest's whispers fading into the background. I can't let my family's legacy be one of destruction. If it means confronting them, then so be it. I won't let their fear silence me any longer. Phaedra reached out, squeezing Xara's hand, grounding her amidst the uncertainty. Then we'll...
The gathering grove buzzed with anxious murmurs as the sun hung low, casting elongated shadows across the gathered community. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, amplifying the tense atmosphere. Xara stood at the heart of the gathering, the weight of urgency bearing down on her. 3 nights until the full moon. 3 nights until the beloved species she sought to protect would be lost forever. She inhaled deeply, her gaze fixed on the crowd as she raised her voice. "Y'all really gotta listen up now. Those poachers ain't just trouble, they're in cahoots with folks we thought had our backs. You really can't trust her. This is just a wild story to turn us against our own." Phaedra stepped forward, her eyes narrowing at Xara. Doubt rippled through the crowd, some nodding in agreement. Did they not see the truth? Did they not understand the stakes? 3 nights remained, and time was slipping away. The very leaders you trust are betraying us. Xara pressed on, her voice quaked determination fueling her fight against Phaedra's poison, each second feeling heavier. "Xara, darling, you're just scared, aren't you? Scared to stand with us and fight," Phaedra shouted, her face flushed with anger. A few in the crowd echoed their agreement, shifting uncomfortably, their loyalties tested. Xara's breath quickened, her gaze darting to the sky, the sun inching closer to the horizon. "I'm afraid of what will happen if we don't unite. By the full moon it will be too late." She took a step forward, resolve mounting within her. Each moment felt like an eternity, but she refused to let fear dictate their fate. As tension mounted, a woman clutching a child stepped forward. "Is it true? Are we really in danger?" Xara seized the moment, pushing through her fear. "Yes, the poachers plan to wipe out the sacred birds, and our leaders are complicit. We cannot allow this to happen." The murmurs shifted, uncertainty mingling with fear, as Phaedra's face twisted in anger. Yet Xara saw the flicker of doubt in some eyes. "We have to protect our future. We have 3 nights." Phaedra glared, fists clenched as she hissed. "You dare question our leaders, you'll ruin us all." But the crowd was shifting, a tide slowly to low. But the crowd... Three. Midday sunlight filtered through the towering trees of the gathering grove, casting dappled shadows on the uneven ground. The air was thick with anticipation, charged with the energy of the gathered crowd. Cayen stepped forward, the pounding in her chest echoing the gravity of the moment. Behind her, Phaedra Alaric stood resolute, her eyes alight with fierce conviction. The distant sound of the waterfall provided a rhythmic backdrop, a reminder of the natural beauty at stake. Xara inhaled deeply, resolve solidifying as she clutched the parchment, evidence of a betrayal that could shatter their community. This was not just another gathering, it was a pivotal moment that would define their future. "This is a moment for us to listen and choose carefully," she began, her voice clear and unwavering, echoing through the grove. Xara raised the parchment, sunlight catching its edges and casting shadows that danced across the gathered faces. "These are their plans, the poachers and the leaders conspiring to strip our land bare." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, skepticism evident on several faces. Anger flared within her. They had to see the danger looming, the threat overshadowing their home. Phaedra stepped closer, her presence a steady anchor. "Can you feel the weight of what we might lose if we don't act together?" she called out, her voice melodic yet firm, igniting a fire in the hearts of the hesitant. The truth cut like a sharp knife, severing the bonds of denial. A figure at the edge of the crowd crossed his arms, shaking his head. "This is nonsense, Xara. You're just trying to stir trouble." The taunt struck hard, and a flush crept across Xara's face.
No time for hesitation. Then tell me, what do you see? She shot back, her voice trembling with anger. Do you see the sacred trees? Do you hear the cries of the creatures we vowed to protect? She gestured to the grove, a sanctuary now under threat. Eyes shifted, uncertainty creeping in. Phaedra stepped between them, hands raised in a peace gesture. We must listen, not fight among ourselves. The real enemy lurks in the shadows, not among us. The tension in the air thickened, a palpable charge that made Xara acutely aware of her surroundings. Every moment we argue, every moment we doubt, we lose ground, we lose lives. Her voice echoed with urgency, resonating deep within the hearts of all present. Silence fell, heavy and charged, as she locked eyes with the skeptics. One by one, they averted their gazes, the truth seeping into their hearts despite their resistance. This was their chance to unite, to reclaim their strength. A subtle pulse of connection began to form, fragile yet undeniable. Xara stepped.
Chapter 7 Awakening in the Grove. Dawn unfurled across Whispering Falls, the first light spilling like liquid gold over the emerald canopy. The air, thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming orchids, clung to Xara's skin, mingling with the invigorating chill of the waterfall's mist. Gnarled roots twisted into natural seats beneath towering trees, their leaves whispering secrets as a gentle breeze coursed through the rainforest. The distant rush of water roared like an ancient melody, punctuated by a chorus of bird calls, each note a plea for unity in a moment fraught with tension. Xara stepped forward, her heart racing with urgency, as if the sacred space around her enveloped her in anticipation. Xara's voice trembled yet remained resolute, piercing the early morning haze. We need to act quickly. I can't bear the thought of the sacred species vanishing from our home. Her words echoed against the rocky cliff, mingling with the sound of cascading water, stirring the crowd gathered in the clearing. The sun broke through the treetops, casting dappled light on the faces of her friends and neighbors. A murmur rippled through the crowd, skepticism etched into the furrowed brows before her. Phaedra's brow furrowed as she stepped closer, her hand resting on Xara's shoulder. Xara, sugar, we feel your fire, but we ought to think about the danger. Going up against them is risky, and we've got our families to look after. The crunch of fallen leaves underfoot punctuated her caution, a reminder of the precarious balance they all lived in. But what kind of life do we lead if we let fear dictate our actions? Xara pressed on, her voice rising, resonating with the urgency of the wild around them. The vibrant glow of bioluminescent fungi peeked through the underbrush, illuminating the tension in the air with an otherworldly light. She could taste the bitterness of anxiety on her tongue, sweetened only by the hope that her words might ignite a spark of courage in them. If we don't stand together now, we'll lose more than just the sacred species. We'll lose our connection to this land. The waterfall thundered behind her, a reminder of the raw power of nature and the stakes at hand. As the sun continued its ascent, the golden light transformed the falls into a shimmering veil, refracting colors that danced like spirits in the mist. Yet the faces around her remained shadowed, uncertainty lingering in the air. The moon's full glow crept closer, and yet here they stood, fractured instead of united. The waterfall roared on, a constant reminder of the urgency of their plight, and with it came a lingering question: would they allow fear to drown their hopes, or would they rise together as the dawn promised? Morning light filtered through the dense canopy of the gathering grove, dappling the ground with patches of golden warmth and cool shadows. The air hummed with the rustle of leaves and the distant roar of the waterfall, a rhythmic heartbeat anchoring the community's anxious energy. Damp earth released its rich, loamy scent, mingling with the fresh aroma of dew-soaked foliage. Xara stood on the rough stone platform, her fingers tracing the jagged edges beneath her, feeling the pulse of the land beneath her feet, a land that had seen both unity and division. The vibrant calls of birds echoed overhead, a cacophony that vibrated through her bones, urging her to speak, to rally, as the moon's looming fullness drew ever closer. Each beat echoed in her ears like the crashing of the nearby waterfall. She inhaled deeply, the earthy scents filling her lungs, grounding her amid the tension swirling in the air. We cannot turn away from the threat lurking beyond our borders. Her voice rang out, reverberating against the towering trees that surrounded them, casting her words like seeds into the crowd.
Skepticism flickered across their faces, shadows of doubt that threatened to choke her resolve. The uneven ground shifted beneath her, a reminder of the earthquake that had once torn through this place, but she stood firm, refusing to let fear fracture her spirit again. Phaedra stepped forward, her presence a calming counterpoint to Xara's urgency. "I lost my sister to the poachers," she spoke, her voice a soft tremor, drawing gasps from the audience. The air thickened with grief, pressing against her chest. Phaedra's eyes glistened with unshed tears, the memory of loss woven tightly with the fragrant scent of the damp earth. "We must fight for what remains, not just for ourselves, but for those we love." With each word a stirring began in the crowd, a whisper of hope igniting the embers of unity that flickered between them. As her words hung in the air, Xara scanned the faces before her, looking for any sign of agreement. The vibrant colors of the gathering, hues of deep greens and gentle browns from the flora, splashes of fabric worn by the villagers, seemed to pulse with the rhythm of their collective heartbeat. The soft rustle of leaves above accompanied her mounting anticipation, a symphony of nature urging her on. Suddenly, one voice rose above the rest, a man with a brow furrowed in skepticism. "And what do you offer us, Xara? Words alone will not save anyone." The challenge pierced through her, but the taste of resolve filled her mouth.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, the air thickened with the scent of damp earth and fading light. The gathering grove pulsed with life, whispers weaving through the crowd, each voice a note in an uncertain symphony. Xara stepped forward, her fists clenched and resolve etched on her face. The countless gazes pressing down on her made her shoulders tense. Beside her, Phaedra lingered, her eyes aflame with shared determination. The distant rush of water mirrored the urgency within. They were running out of time. Tonight Xara would show them why they must act. Xara raised her chin, her voice steady but charged. "We stand at a precipice, friends. The sacred species, our lifeblood, is under siege. Poachers creep like shadows, preying on the vulnerable. Our home, our heritage is slipping through our fingers. We cannot allow that to happen." Her words sliced through the murmurs, igniting flickers of recognition in the crowd. Faces turned, and for a moment skepticism faded, replaced by a spark of shared purpose. Phaedra nodded, stepping closer to Xara, her presence a shield against doubt. "We have a chance to protect what is ours. We must unite for the sake of those who cannot fight for themselves." The crowd shifted, some avoiding eye contact and glancing at the ground. Yet Xara pressed on, urgency propelling her. "Doubt had washed over me like a tide, but now I'm ready to fight for our future. Together we can heal the rifts that divide us." Her voice rang out, rich with conviction, echoing against the trees that had witnessed generations of struggle and triumph. Each word was a call to arms, urging them to remember who they were and what they stood to lose. A shift rippled through the crowd, a subtle yet potent change. Nods of agreement began to blossom, and a sense of solidarity took root. A smile broke on Xara's face as she exchanged a determined glance with Phaedra. "We must act before the moon reaches its zenith. If we do not, the sacred species may be lost forever. Our loved ones, our legacy. Imagine a future where our children can thrive among them, where the songs of the grove are not silenced by greed. We must stand together." The urgency in her voice resonated, a fragile thread weaving through the hesitant hearts around her. As the last rays of sunlight surrendered to twilight, Xara's words hung in the air, a tapestry of hope and urgency. The murmurs grew stronger, voices rising in a palpable wave of resolve. She drew a deep breath, the evening air invigorating her spirit. The moon glowed brighter, a sentinel of their time. Would they rise as one? Would they protect what was sacred? A question lingered in the charged air, and as Xara gazed, the moon hung heavy in the night sky, spilling silver light across the gathering grove like a tide. Xara stood before the anxious crowd, her pulse quickening under the weight of their gazes. "We have 3 nights until the moon is full, and if we don't act now, our loved ones will be lost forever." Urgency sharpened her voice, a gentle melodic tone laced with the regional accent of her upbringing. This was their moment to unite and protect the sacred species that had sustained them for generations. Yet doubt loomed, a heavy shroud over their future, pressing against her resolve. Xara scanned the crowd, her pulse racing at the sight of furrowed brows and crossed arms.
"We can't trust you, Xara. Your family betrayed us," a voice shouted from the back, echoing the fears that haunted them all. A bitter taste coated her tongue as she fought to respond to the accusation. "I know my past is stained, but this isn't about me. It's about saving what's ours." The murmurs grew louder, a swell of dissent threatening to drown out her plea. Time pressed against her like a vice, each tick a reminder of their dwindling chances. A knot twisted in Xara's stomach as she spoke. Phaedra's reassuring presence beside her did little to calm the storm brewing within. "What if it all goes wrong?" A woman near the front cried, her voice trembling. Xara's voice cracked as desperation filled her tone. "If we stand idle, we risk losing it all." The crowd shifted, uncertainty crashing against their resolve. How could she ignite hope when fear clawed at their hearts? Then a small voice broke through the tension. A child, barely 6, stepped forward, eyes wide with innocence. "My grandmother told me stories about the sacred birds," she exclaimed, her voice ringing clear and bright. "She said they were our protectors." The crowd fell silent, the air thick with the burden of history. Hope flickered in Xara's chest, urging her to respond. "Yes, those stories remind us of our strength." The crowd surged with renewed determination as the child's words took root. "We can't let fear dictate our future," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her. The moon would rise full in just 3 nights, and they had no time to waste. A chant began to ripple through the crowd, a collective heartbeat of hope. But as Xara looked around, a shadow lingered at the edge of the grove, a figure watching them with cold eyes. Who was it, and what would they do as the moonlight shone down? The atmosphere shifted, a tenuous balance between hope and fear. Xara understood the weight of the moment, their future hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of action. She had ignited a spark, but could it grow into a flame? The chant grew louder.
The air buzzed with urgency as Xara stepped into the flickering light of the gathering grove. Shadows danced across the gnarled roots and ancient trunks as if whispering the stories of her ancestors. The weight of gazes pressed into her skin, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The child's words echoed in her mind. They were running out of time. 3 nights until the moon swelled full, and with it the threat to the sacred species loomed closer. Xara squared her shoulders, determination coursing through her veins. This was not just a meeting, it was a call to arms. The collective heartbeat of the community thrummed in her chest, and she wouldn't let it falter. Xara raised her voice, each word slicing through the tension like a blade. "The river's whispers carry warnings. Our sacred species is fading. This isn't just about them, it's about us. We are the guardians of our heritage, and we cannot stand by while it slips away. Fear is a poison that taints our purpose." Her gaze swept across the crowd, landing on familiar faces twisted with doubt and others ignited by resolve. Their eyes sparkled as they leaned forward, eager to embrace her words. Yet discontent flickered in the crowd, a stark reminder of the naysayers. Phaedra stepped forward, her presence a balm against rising fears. "I remember the stories told by the firelight, the great tree that spoke, the spirits that guided us. Our ancestors faced darkness, and they did not falter. They fought for our existence, for our future. We must do the same." Her voice, rich and warm, wrapped around the crowd, drawing them closer. Xara watched as memories sparked in their faces, an awakening that brought them back to who they were and what they stood for. "We must act," Xara shouted, urgency lacing her words. "I propose a rescue operation. We gather our resources, unite our strengths, and save them before it's too late. We have the skills, the knowledge. Together we can do this." The words poured from her, igniting a fire in her supporters. But even as cheers erupted, a shiver crept down her spine as discontent flickered in the crowd. "What if we fail? What if we lose more than we save?" A voice slithered through the revelry, thick with doubt. Xara's chest tightened, yet she stepped forward, her expression open and compassionate. "What will we lose if we do nothing?" The murmurs of dissent faded, replaced by a growing resolve. The rhythm of the crowd mirrored the thumping in her chest, urging her forward. She scanned the faces before her, searching for the light of determination. The child's words reverberated in her mind. 3 nights. The moon would rise, and they had to be ready. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment, in the collective